So Rusty talked to us a lot about iris.
Yep.
And how to use iris to control the aperture to get more light in and out of the
You're
lens.
listening.
I know.
That's amazing.
So this is basically just a remote control way to do that without having to walk up to the camera and
That's right.
do that at the lens.
Yep. A lot of control room operations, you're going to have a camera in the auditorium with an operator in the control room adjusting the color, brightness, contrast, essentially, from the control room. Right
So in
next
some
to
production teams, that person is known as the shader.
shader. Yep.
Gotcha.
And that's just a common term. Now, OCP, RCP, all these different the terms are like what manufacturers use to call this exact panel.
Okay.
So basically, this is a control panel that controls the color. Basically, it's controlling the camera and the color of the camera.
So this has a lot of buttons and knobs on it that the average operator isn't going to have to necessarily mess with.
Very intimidating.
Yeah.
When you walk down, you're like, oh my gosh.
Because there's one for every camera.
One for every camera, right. And a lot of different knobs and things here. So for our application in a lot of churches, we're not going to use most of this. What we're really going to be using is just this joystick up and down. Because a lot of times, we're not going to be adjusting the color temperature or the white balance of the camera or anything like that during a live show. That happens outside of a live show in preparation for it. So we're going to be operating the live show component, making all of the other cameras match from a brightness or darkness standpoint. So if one of y'all want to grab that, you can see. So when I say, hey, camera three, shade up, what do you think you're going to do?
Move the joystick up.
Move the joystick up.
What some operators don't realize, though, is that up is actually lowering the number.
That's right.
Same with an iris control on a camera.
Yep.
So think about the actual direction as up and down.
That's right.
Rather than the number going up and down.
So
because the number is an inverse of the direction.
That's right. So up is brighter, down is darker. So, yes.
It's beeping at us.
I know. Sorry.
You went too low.
Yeah.
Everything's got its limits.
We need some altitude, Captain.
That's right.
So, again, the shader's role is to make sure all the cameras match from a brightness standpoint. Now, we'll have a different video that you can find about like being blown out and when the right time to have the right color is there. But from a panel operation standpoint, your job is to make sure they all match.
Now, I noticed this particular one doesn't only have the joystick up and down, but it's got this little dial at the bottom.
That's right.
That controls this other number. What's that?
Yeah. So this is the black level. Think about it as like contrast on your TV.
Okay.
So it's really the black. So if you think about your up and down iris is like a brightness, this what's called a PED, but it's your black levels. It's making your blackers more black.
So Instagram filter.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It's great.
So those are going to be your the main controls. Now there's one other control called gain. Now you guys know gain.
They've got a gain
it's an audio thing.
Yeah, don't let it clip.
Right. So gain adjusts the brightness as well, but it's up here on different panels, having different places. But you'll see it steps, so there's no smooth transition in your gain. So what you don't want to do is you do not want to gain up while that camera's live. So you have all these other different cameras, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I can't, for some reason you can't get enough brightness, then you're going to need to bump the gain up. Don't do it while it's live because people are going to see that jump.
Yeah.
So
this is digital. This is actually letting more light into the camera.
That's right. Exactly. So just make sure that there's a relationship between gain and your iris. And a lot of times people will be like, hey, gain's set. Don't worry about it. We got it taken care of. Don't mess with gain. But just know it is there. It does affect how the camera ends up looking. So don't do it live.
It's kind of like the difference between gain and volume.
That's right.
Or gain and a fader on an audio console.
The gains are set. Don't mess with them.
That's right.
Just worry about the fader.
Yep.
So if you add too much gain, you start seeing noise.
Yes, you start seeing noise. It'll add a lot of distortion.
You can see it.
Yep. So that's why we want to keep the gain as low as we can. And we can see right now, we just can't get, at this gain level, you can't get enough brightness out of it.
Some.
So we need to add a little bit of gain. That's probably at a good level. Then we'll iris down a little bit. Get us where we need to be.
Now,
so it's just a balancing act.
Are you trying to hit a specific number or what it looks like?
I always say what it looks like using the tools that you have available, which is either a monitor or a scope and a monitor, making sure all the cameras, you don't want to go from a dark camera to a bright camera. back and forth. So make sure all your skin tones match. And that's what you'll see at a shader station. You'll most likely see all your cameras right there in front of you, so you can really start making them look the same.
And most of the time in a bigger sort of higher end control room, you're going to have a scope and monitors.
That's right.
So you can kind of cross-check and just make sure everything is measuring properly and looks good.
That's right. Yep. So shader, that's what it does.
Cool.